All right. Hey, everyone, and thanks for checking out the show. I'm James Peppe, and this is Pep Talks. So I don't know about you, but I've just about had all I can take of all the crazy wackos who are running our country into the ground, whether it's the obnoxious extremists who refuse to compromise and would rather see the whole place burn down and don't care at all that every day they're making us a global laughingstock, or the corrupt power establishment that continues to manipulate and control us. They're using fear and resentment for their own gain, for their own benefit. To hell with the good of the country. Look, maybe what bothers me more than anything else is what I call this radical realism. It's always been there, and it's the way the power establishment conditions you and me, all of us regular folks, to believe that we can't have what we want. That the way things should be, the way you and I know things should be, is impossible. It's great. It's a nice idea, but it's a fantasy that'll never come true. We've come to believe that. We've created a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm guessing you're a lot like me, regular folks, as I said, who are sick of all of it. And yet you don't believe that it's ever going to change. You believe that politics is what it is. It's never going to change. You believe that the way the country is going is just the way it's going, and you're just one person who can never make a difference. And I've started Pep Talks to try to dispel that myth because I think it's garbage. You know, the extremists I'm talking about, they number a small portion of our population, 10, 15%, give or take a little bit, not much more than that. But if you watch the news, if you dare to peek at the news, God help us, right? You would get the idea that that's all of us on one side or the other. We have to pick a side, one or the other. You're either with us or you're against us. You're good or you're evil. Not true. Not true. Most of us, about 80% of us, give or take a little bit, we're just regular folks trying to get through life, trying to gain a little bit of happiness for us and our families, a little bit of financial security, a house and good job, whatever, right? That's us. And we don't want anything to do with politics because it's so disgusting. And that's exactly what the establishment and all those extremists want. They want us to stay out of it. Because when we stay out of it, we give them our power. The last thing those people want is for us to wake up, which we do sometimes in history, but never for long enough. We always go back to sleep. We fix things, then we go back to sleep and things go bad again. The last thing they want is for us to wake up and to take our power back because that pushes them out of the game. That's what they don't want, but that's what we need to do. So I'm sick of those realists who tell us that we can't. Look, I ran for president on that message. I ran for president a few years ago because the same feeling began then. And put it this way. I'm passionate about this, as maybe you can tell. And I don't like sitting around waiting for somebody else to fix it. So I ran. And I travel the country and I talk to people just like you every day. And everybody told me the same thing. That's exactly what we need, Pep. We need ideas like yours, just common sense, regular American type of ideas that take the best of both sides and works with reasonable compromise and moves us forward. And enough of this extremist stuff. You know, I was told that over and over and over again. And at the same time, those very same people would basically tell me they were sorry that it just wasn't going to happen, that it just wasn't realistic. Then they would go and follow the marching orders, unspoken marching orders of that power establishment. And they would go into the voting booth and vote for the lesser of two evils because that's what that's what we've all been conditioned to do. Accept the reality that this is just what it is. And it's not true. I hope you see that. I hope that's why you're watching. That's why I started Pep Talks. To convince people like us, the vast majority of us, the true silent majority, that it's time to stop being silent, to take back our power and to get our country back on track. Look, man, I don't care what Donald Trump says. This country has always been great. Always. It's phenomenally great, right? Can I do that? Can I? Phenomenally great? It is. It's an amazing country, always has been, and it's inherently so. And I will resist to the death the idea that we're not. Now, the fact is that we do sometimes go to sleep, as I said. We sometimes take steps backward. We sometimes get off track. But this country has inherent strength, and it comes from regular folks like us. Problem, again, is that we do go to sleep from time to time, and it takes us a while to wake up. But when we do, we put things straight. It's time for us to wake up. In fact, given all I just said about how sick I am of all of it, and I'm sure you are too, on the other hand, I'm also very hopeful and optimistic because of the way I feel about this country and the way I feel about you. the millions and millions of regular folks just like you and me who make this country great. And one of the things you're going to get on Pep Talks is that one of the myths that power establishment and the radical realists I talk about that they've conditioned us with is that the big global issues like war in Ukraine or the trade wars or even immigration, whatever, that those don't affect your everyday life. You can just put your head in the sand and ignore all of that. Let them handle it. They'll take care of it. And you can just go about your business every day and don't worry about this. This stuff affects our everyday lives. It does. So this show is going to talk a lot about that. Connect those dots, right? Why you should care about the big issues every day. We'll talk about them in plain English and in simple terms because they're not nearly as complicated as the establishment wants you to think. In simple terms, and we'll put forward ideas and solutions. And you're going to find yourself asking, yeah, why don't we do it that way? Why? And the first instinctive answer is going to be, well, because it's not realistic. It's just never going to happen. That's too honest. That makes too much sense. It's never going to happen. Think about it. Step back and think about how crazy the whole thing is. We've been conditioned to think that the only thing we can expect is bad stuff. Politicians and leaders who lie and manipulate and steal and are corrupt, that's just the way they are. God forbid we could ever have an honest leader who tells us the truth and who's there to serve the public, all of us, instead of themselves. God forbid it. Why can't we expect that? Well, because the radical realists tell us we can, and we believed it. And that's all become this self-fulfilling prophecy. Because why? Because when we believe that crap, then we don't do anything. Then we tell ourselves, oh, what's the point of voting? Or what's the point of getting involved? What's the point of writing my congressman? None of it's going to make a difference. Nothing I do is going to make a difference to all this stuff. And then what happens? We don't try. We don't even try. And if we don't try, well, the change that we all want never happens, right? So we've just proven ourselves right. Nothing's going to change. Well, nothing's going to change because we don't change it, because we don't do what we can do, because we don't reclaim our power and use it. So look, if you think this is about mobilizing you into some big political movement, the truth is it is and it isn't. One of the great things about social media, which by the way, I'm not a big fan of, maybe because I'm old, I don't know. But I do recognize its power. And one of the great things about it is that it can work to re-empower regular folks who don't think they can make a difference. It's as simple as this, maybe. Subscribe to this show. Like this episode. Share it with your friends. See if we can pump up the views, because guess what happens in this world that we live in? If you get a bunch of views and a bunch of subscribers, a bunch of followers, people start to notice. And politicians start to notice because they're the chickenest shit you ever saw. And if they see voices like ours massing together, they get scared. They get scared and they start to listen to us, take things seriously. That's not an oversimplification. That's the way it is. So all of a sudden with social media, we have some power. We have an easy outlet. So you think this is about mobilizing? Yes, in a way, because I want us to bring our voice together to let that corrupt power establishment and all those extremists know we're on to them and we're sick of it. But it's not the kind of mobilization that requires you to give up your everyday life. Remember the point. We want to improve our everyday lives. We want to make things better in America for us and our families on an everyday basis. And if we were to have to give up those everyday lives to go to work on campaigns and grassroots and this and that and the other thing, well, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? But we do have responsibility. We all have responsibility if we want our country to be better. And we want our country to be better because we want our lives, everyday lives, to be better. So social media is a tool for us to actually leverage our power into real change, real positive change. So listen to the show. Tune into the show once a week, 20 to 30 minutes on the treadmill, while you're eating breakfast, on your drive to work. Hit subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And when you share with your social media network list, with your text and email list, write a personal note, strongly encouraging your friends to do the same for all the reasons I'm talking about. That's a simple way that we can start to leverage our power through numbers on shows like this. And by the way, I hope that a lot of other people who think the way we do will start their own shows like this and put out stuff like this, that we could start seeing, because what they say is seeing is believing, right? We can start seeing that there really are a lot more of us than them. But do that. And then every week, tune into the show and we'll talk about the issues of the day. We'll talk about why they're important, how they affect your everyday life, and what we can do to move things back in a better direction, to take power back from those extremists and the corrupt power establishment, and to give things more in line with what we want in terms of our everyday lives. And the reasonable, common sense compromise that makes sense to so many of us, except for all those extremists and the power establishment who just want to control our lives and tell us what to do and how to live every day. That's what it's about. That's what Pep Talks is about. And that's what I hope you're here for and what I hope you'll help us grow and turn into something meaningful. That's it. That's it. So listen, I'm going to stop right there. This is just the introduction to the show so you know what you're getting into. Call it Truth in Advertising. But there's more shows that you'll see in the menu below. There's a place for your comments. I'd love to hear it. Give me whatever thoughts or feedback you think will be helpful, and keep coming back and bring your friends and family so that we can grow those numbers and grow the strength of our voice. That's it. The show will grow and evolve. I hope to be able to have opportunities to interact directly with you in the future, but also maybe to bring interesting guests on at some point. But really, for now, I'd just like to know that this is what you want, that you're tired of the way things are, that you're ready to start believing again in the way things should be, and you're ready to overcome the radical realism that tells you you can't have what you want, because I'm here to tell you that you can. So thanks for checking out Pep Talks. Please keep coming back. Let me know how you think. And remember, always subscribe, like, and share. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you again real soon.